All right, we are live. Hello, hello. Welcome to Algolia DevChat. Chuck, Chuck Meyer, and glad to be here today. Cool. Still getting used to doing this sort of solo gig. Lost my partner in crime a couple weeks ago, but we're figuring it out as we go along. So I want to welcome you here today. Again, this is just kind of a formal, informal dev chat session. I'm going to do a little bit of coding, show off some code that I'm working on right now. We can talk about a few things. By all means, go ahead and say hello down in the chat, and we can definitely chit chat about topics you have, maybe things that you've tried with Algolia, things that you're currently trying to do, questions about search in general. My kind of thing that I'm working on, my theme right now is trying to kind of up my front end game. So I am historically kind of someone who's dabbled more in the back end. I was in the cloud space doing kind of back end development, infrastructure as code, DevRel, DevOps stuff. And so it's been a long time since I've done any real front end development. And so I thought it'd be kind of a good opportunity to kind of try and level up my skills there a little. Because they're kind of laughable, honestly, right now. But it's been good. I've been playing around with React some. I've been playing around with some of the Algolia widgets and our instant search library, and kind of been building some interesting stuff. What we're going to be doing a little bit later is I'm going to be showing off kind of a POC that I've been working on around Geosearch. So folks that have used Algolia in the past, what we're kind of known for is, incredibly fast prefix first text search. But we also support GeoSearch as well. So you can actually use geodata. I'll show this off here real quick. Let's move that over. You don't need to see me in a million. But yeah, so you can actually inject geolocation data into Algolia records, and then you can do some sort of basic geosearches. You can around radius, you can do polygons, geometric shapes. So you can do kind of a lot of interesting things around geographic search. The question that we got in the forum, and I should have had that up, but I don't right now. I can pull it up in a little bit. But the question that I got in the forum was, what if you have a mix of some geographic data and then some data that maybe is not geographic, like say is state-based or sort of national agencies and things like that? How do you kind of build a layered approach like that? And that's kind of what I've been playing with. And I've got a decent sort of baseline POC functioning that I'll show you in a little while. We're going to kind of keep trying to sort of iterate on that and see if we can make it a little bit better. But before that, I wanted to show off something from the community. This was tweeted by Ben Myers. Ben's over there at Ben's a live streamer. He's got his own blog over there at Semantics, and Ben was sort of tweaking around and kind of came up with this interesting use case where he was on stream on Twitch and wanted to share a blog post or a previous stream that he had done, and was kind of sick of having to go and look it up and copy the URL and paste it in, and thought it would be kind of cool to have a bot to do it on his behalf. And so he built this Algolia search Twitch bot. So this is essentially a bot that you can run on your Twitch stream or wherever you're streaming, and you can kind of issue it commands and have it do searches for various streams or various blogs that you've kind of previously written or done, and let the bot kind of go find the best result and drop it right into the chat stream. And I thought this was kind of clever. One of the things that we're kind of always looking for at Algolia DevRel is sort of interesting use cases outside of just a search box, right? Just instead of just putting a search box, where else could search live in your site? And I thought this was kind of a really cool use case. I've seen sort of chat search before, but I love the idea of this kind of being a real-time kind of assistant that you can use to make streaming easier. Because, boy, one thing I'm realizing is streaming is a little challenging, trying to kind of wear a bunch of different hats at once, trying to kind of keep track of the content, and interact with folks in the chat and kind of make sure that you're sharing all the important information. Speaking of which, why don't I go ahead and drop this in the chat so folks can kind of take a look at it themselves. So yeah, so this is Ben's chatbot. And you can see he kind of walks through all the steps of getting all set up. There's a little hand waving here at the beginning around sort of building the index, which is something that we can definitely kind of spend some future sessions talking about. One thing he does point out is one way to kind of get your blogs or other content into an index is to use our Netlify integration. So you can use the Algolia crawler. Algolia has a crawler bot that you can use to essentially point at your Netlify content and pull that into an index. Another mechanism that he kind of shows here is this is Raymond Camden. We've talked about Raymond in the past, but Raymond kind of has been for years now essentially maturing a pipeline for taking his blog content, his substantial blog content, and pulling it into indices using sort of his build pipelines, right? So this is kind of as content is added to the blog itself, sort of triggering an additional pipeline that goes and pulls that data into his indices as well. But so regardless of how you kind of get the stuff into your index, next piece is obviously, if you're a streamer, you've probably got a Twitch account already, but the recommendation Ben gives is to sort of build a secondary account to host your bot, just to kind of have a very clear differentiation between you as a person and sort of the automated assisted content that's coming into your channel for a number of different reasons. And then really, it's really kind of a simple chunk of code here to go ahead and bring in Twitch itself, start listening to chat using this TMI library, right, which is, I think, Twitch messaging interface. So just a few lines of code. You can kind of have a bot up and running and listening, and then a few more lines of code using the instant search library, and you can go ahead and actually start searching against your index here and sort of retrieving results. Ben's using a very confident query here where the assumption here is that the first hit you get is going to be the most relevant. That's kind of a good way to be, right? The theory here is that you've already configured your index in such a way that you can have that level of confidence. You've got really good ranking criteria. You know what you're searching against. Maybe you've even got keywords and stuff in there that you're searching against, so that you can be very confident that that first hit that comes back, since you kind of own the content and you own the index and you own the querying capability, is the right one. So I thought this was kind of cool. I think maybe at some point we should probably build this for these dev chats. But I just got this morning, so I really just had a chance to kind of look through it. But so maybe we'll put this in the parking lot and we'll make this a project for another day. But I thought it'd be pretty cool to maybe pull in like the Algolia engineering blog and some of our previous dev chat sessions and maybe make them searchable. So again, kind of cool thing. Check it out. I put the link in the chat. Obviously feel free to kind of play with it on your own. Tell me how it works for you. And again, we'll probably take this up ourselves at some point in the near future. Another kind of near future session, I think I'm probably going to put this geocode project to bed today. I think I probably got it in a pretty good place. There's just a couple things I want to clean up. I'll go ahead and get this repo surfaced in public for you all, start working on the blog post for it. And then we're going to pick up the next thread. The next thread is, I really want to go back to sort of bread and butter with Algolia. And I feel like our bread and butter is e-commerce sites. So what I'll be doing over the next few weeks is building up an e-commerce site from scratch. This is something I've never done before, so I'm kind of excited for it. We're going to be doing a Shopify backend. We're going to be using the Algolia e-commerce template. If you haven't seen this before, let's see if we can get this to come up. Gigs. Hopefully you can hear me because, boy, that's not coming up fast. So, yep. So this is the e-commerce UI template. So our solutions team put this together, right? And this is sort of a pre-baked template with a bunch of components designed specifically for like a really good e-commerce experience with kind of all the bells and whistles already baked into it. And so I thought this would be kind of really fun. So we'll be doing Shopify on the back. We'll be starting with this template on the front end, and we're going to be layering in all of these different features. So we're going to be doing search and browse, kind of discovery within an e-commerce catalog. We'll be layering in personalization, collecting event data, all of this kind of the cool stuff that Algolia does. And it's going to let us kind of take a quick tour through a lot of the different features and get me up to speed with having done it, how to build an e-commerce site, because I know that's kind of what a lot of folks are doing with Algolia right now. So that's kind of it for the future. As far as the present, let's go ahead and jump in to the e-commerce, I'm sorry, not the e-commerce, the geolocation piece that I've been working on. So let me go ahead and show you what I've got right now. So as I mentioned, I wonder if I've got that post. Let me see if I can bring up that post really quick for you. Into Asana. Yeah, here it is. Cool. So this was the question. It came from, boy, I'm not going to try. I think it's Aljor or Alajor. And the question was, I've got multiple sources of information, right? So I've got some local providers that have geolocation information, but I also have some state level providers and some national providers. And I showed this last week too. But this is kind of the question that I saw that I thought was really kind of interesting, right? So the question is, how do I show search results for an individual that provide both the latitude and longitude, and also sort of within a particular state or national? And my initial thought here was, can you inject geocode information for the statewide, like using sort of polygons? And kind of looking at the geocode information, what I saw here is we do allow sort of specification of multiple latitudes and longitudes within geolocation. Now, the challenge as I kind of went to actually sort of implement this isn't, building a polygon. What this is actually doing is it's showing sort of multiple locations, right? So say you are a local business and you've got 3 shops in the metro area. That's what you could use this for, right? And that way, regardless of which shop an individual is close to, we can still kind of pop up information for them. So that doesn't really help. What you would kind of end up with here, you could theoretically, drop a few pins for your statewide agency across the state, but it wouldn't really be a good reflection because, if you sit in between 2 of them, it might show up twice, or kind of it reflects a specific geographic location when there really isn't one. So I kind of abandoned that approach, and I started looking at doing sort of more of a federated search. So the thought here would be a situation where you would maintain multiple indices, where you've got one with the geodata, and then one that has sort of more of the state-by-state data. And so I went ahead and I built out some indices for this. Let me see if I can show those. Oh, no, that's the code sandbox. Not the dashboard. Super secret, 2-factor authentication. Plug that in. All right. So, like I said, I built a couple of indices here. And one of these I think I showed last week. This is my geodata. So if you recall, basically I built up the script that goes and pulls in this JSON file of about 3,000 real world addresses that have been anonymized. So basically you've got the actual real world address, but you don't have any information about what sort of shop or whatever is there. And so you can kind of take it and sort of do what you want. I like this because since I'm using real world addresses, I can actually kind of do geo searches near real world addresses, right? This is kind of legitimate. So I took that and I combined it with some random data, kind of built these silly agency names. Some of them I kind of marked as preferred. I haven't really gotten into that yet, but the thought is that maybe these are agencies that you have a better relationship with or you can recommend. And that might be something that you wouldn't necessarily want to filter against later, using facets. But I inject in all of the regular address information, and then I inject in this geolocation information. So you end up with a index that's like this. So you can see I've got these kind of funny names on our different agencies here, but with real world addresses. So this is one in Oklahoma City. It's a preferred agency. I have this configured right now so that we are ranked by preferred. So preferred should come up first here. And yeah, so theoretically you can do like a geographic search and come up with any one of these agencies. Now what I've done for now is I built out this secondary index with my state agencies. Now I kind of went back and forth about whether or not to commingle this data or build it out as a separate index. And just kind of for my own sanity, as I was kind of building out this search, I decided to go for 2 separate indices, just to give me a little bit more control. But there's a precedent for potentially injecting this data directly alongside the geographic, the location-based agencies, because obviously these aren't going to show up if you do a geo search, but they are going to show up if you do a state search. And then for my national agency for now, I kind of cheated and basically just built an agency that has like all the states in it. But obviously we can swap this over to be more like the what was asked here, which is essentially you can put a flag on it, right? It's national or it's not national. So yeah, so now I've got my 2 indices, and then I started looking at building a UI for this. Now I know I wanted to use a Google autocomplete form on this. Bring StreamYard back up here. Oh, hey, Rich. Oh, Rich is saying there's a strange echo in the audio. Sorry about that, man. If anyone else is hearing that, let me know. Let me double check my sound preferences here. So let me make sure. Input. Oh, okay. I see what's going on, man. Let me see. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Looks like my Yeti mic fell off. I've got a M1 MacBook here, and it struggles a little bit with Thunderbolt at times. So apologies for that. Hopefully the audio gets a little bit better. Let me know, Rich, if you're still having trouble hearing. Anyway, to kind of get back to it. So where I kind of got to is I knew I wanted to use a Google autocomplete form for the UI. And so I started kind of playing around with that. So I started bringing in the Google library, go over to code here, and I started building out this agency finder form, right? So, and I used a wonderful blog post to kind of get to this point, which kind of showed you how to use the autocomplete form within a React framework, because I wanted to do this within React. And so basically the bottom line is I built out this form with kind of all of these address fields in it. And then kind of tie that into a Google autocomplete. So you can see I've got kind of a Google autocomplete going here. Oh, man. There we go. Oof, I think I need some more memory here. But anyway, so we initialize an autocomplete object here, and then we bind it to this autocomplete field within my form. Google autocomplete can then go kind of retrieve all the information, including the latitude and longitude, the geo information, and then that allows me to do a search against my index. Now, originally I was kind of playing with using the out-of-box instant search widgets to do this. But I was getting some challenges around doing Geosearch using essentially the instant search library. So I started kind of playing around with making my own sort of search for it. So I kind of got away from the instant search widgets and started building out some of my own. So you'll see essentially what happens here is after I do a search, well, let's bring this up and show you what happens. Here we go. So you can see here, this is my little autocomplete form. So I can go ahead and put it in an address here. Let's see, we'll do an address in New York, in Brooklyn, an old apartment I used to live in. And we'll go ahead and submit it. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm getting sort of results back here. I've got a mix of geographic. Looks like I don't have any place in New York, but here's a bunch in Connecticut. And then I can get my New York agency and my national agency. And the way I kind of ended up doing this was basically by setting up a auto submit event on my form that actually goes and kind of does these searches on my behalf. So rather than using the pre-built widgets, I'm kind of going in and initializing my indices and then doing both of my searches here. So I start out by doing my geographic search here around latitude and longitude and pull in that geocode information that I got from my autocomplete form, and then immediately go and do an additional search here against my state data. That looks ugly. Bring that down. There we go. Against my state data and retrieve those, essentially combine the two sets of results and then serve those back up, right? So theoretically, we should always get kind of this national agency within my state search. Let's do one here in, I know there's some agencies in Massachusetts. So let's try Massachusetts address and see what that does. There we go. That looks a little better. So you can see, so essentially what we're doing is we're doing a geographic search here around a fixed latitude and longitude, and pulling back all of those. Those are ranked the way let's see if we can find that, around latitude and longitude. Essentially what we're doing is we're kind of building out a circle and a radius around those coordinates. And then the ranking here, rather than using sort of the rankings that I've given, preference for preferred or alphabetical, it's actually a geographic ranking. So it's going to come back based on whatever's closest. So essentially, we are getting all of the closest geographic agencies to this particular address here. And then, of course, on top of that, we also can get the national and the statewide agency as well. So I thought this is a pretty good way to kind of handle it. The disadvantage here, obviously, is you're doing two separate searches, which means that if you've got a cap on the number of results, you're not going to kind of make sure to fill up both. You'll get the top results on each side. I wasn't too worried about that in this particular case because I was kind of building it with one statewide agency and one national agency. That might become more of an issue if, say, you have a lot of national service providers and you want to make sure that you're only bringing back like 10 or 20 results. That'll be something you'll have to manage by sort of pulling back results from both sides and then figuring out how much of both you wanted to kind of stitch together. But kind of for this initial POC, this seemed like kind of a cool way to kind of put it all together. Like I said, the things that I haven't done yet, I haven't put in any sort of faceting or filtering for these preferred agencies. Also, it might be kind of cool to switch this over so that the national agencies are based on that flag as opposed to kind of relying on them having all the states in it. One thing you'll notice is that these agencies coming in this way don't actually have any sort of information on this side. Part of the reason was I did that was to hide sort of this having that sort of a long list of states for the state information. Just seemed easier just to kind of blank that out. The other thing that I think is kind of weird from a UI perspective, right, is, again, I kind of took this form idea from a really good blog post that was about, let me see. It was about adding ice cream parlors. Let me find this. That's not the one. This is the one. Yeah, Tracy Lim. So the concept here was you were adding ice cream parlors to this database of ice cream parlors. And so it's kind of giving equal weight to this search field and then these fields, I suppose, so that you could kind of go in and kind of tweak them. In our case, we don't necessarily want someone to come in and start filling in address information here, because if I do, I'm not actually going to have any geocoordinates that I can kind of build off of. And so let's clear that out. Let's see what happens actually if we do this. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see kind of just a generic set of results here. Here we go. So yeah, so if I submit this form, so I do get an Illinois agency here, but you can see I'm basically just kind of getting all of my preferred agencies in reverse alphabetical order, regardless of geolocation. So yeah, so without the geo information, this isn't really very useful. So I thought it might be kind of cool to clean up this UI to essentially, kind of put the address search front and center, and then maybe just have this as sort of like a read-only visual as opposed to form fields. And so that might allow us to, it gives a better user experience, kind of lets you understand that you're searching. This is just kind of data for your visibility, not necessarily something that you would want to edit. So that was kind of one thing I wanted to do. And then the other thing I really want to do is I want to try and figure out how to put the preferred widget in here. I really, really, really wish I could be using like the instant search results and the instant search widgets for this. But as I said earlier, I'm kind of a front-end neophyte. So I haven't quite figured out, how do you take those widgets and sort of override that search capability, right? I'm kind of used to it all kind of triggering off of a search box widget coming from instant search. And since I actually need to kind of go off of a different source, I'm not sure how to kind of pick up on the backside of that and view the results and do the faceting and all of that stuff. So I think I'm kind of on my own for now, kind of building out those pieces, but we can kind of figure it out together. So that's got you caught up for where I am. Again, I'll go ahead and share the repo once I kind of have the solution to a point I'm happy with it. The one other thing I'm really not particularly happy with is following this blog. The first thing Tracy kind of mentions is that the way kind of Google wants you to add in the helper scripts is essentially putting them in as a static script in the index.html. And I kind of beat my head against this wall too, trying to figure out another way to get that script loaded without having to, sort of statically expose the API key within any .html file. Obviously, I'd love to move that over into the programmatic side of the world so that I can kind of pull in that API key from environment variables. If that's something you've done before, I would love to see like an approach that's really successful with React, because so far, like I said, I haven't really had a good one. I was playing with this a lot because an initial version of this that I was doing, you'll notice right now, this version, there's no map, right? I'm using geographic information, but I'm really just using the geographic information to set up search boundaries so that I can pull back these agencies. Initially, I'd kind of been playing with the version. Let me see, I might still have this around. Let's see here. Yeah, let me bring this over. So I'd kind of started from another direction here with the map. Let me bring this one up. Oh, this one actually, I might need to tweak it because I changed the name of my index. No, this is working. Okay, cool. So yeah, so the thought process here, you can see this is, I've still got this location form. So I can do that address in Massachusetts. But all this does right now is it just pops up this geo data. This is an instant search widget. This is the instant search geomap widget. So you can see here, I can actually go and it's displaying stuff and I can kind of zoom in. So we can go up here to Massachusetts. And you can see all those agencies that we were searching for before, right? Here's the stuff up near Boston. But again, this is kind of triggered off of this search box up here. And I can search pretty easily for, let's see. What about this leaky buff insect? I like leaky buff insect. You can do like text search and get to this leaky buff insect agency. But there's not really a good way to sort of inject in the latitude and longitude. I mean, I guess I could, what I could do is, let's take a look at this. Where, here we go. Map. Google Map Loader. Oh, I hit the wrong one there. Yeah, so originally I was trying to use these widgets, which essentially load in the Google Map on your behalf, allow you to do a geosearch against it, and sort of set up all the different markers on the map itself, which is pretty spiffy. But again, this is kind of tied into that search component, and I haven't quite figured out how to get it to go off of latitude and longitude. Now, Harrowan, who's one of the engineers here, recommended going in and you can kind of tweak the configuration widget. So there's this configuration widget that we can use. And one of the things you can put in here, I think, is the ability to do a latitude longitude search. But I haven't quite figured it out. And then, of course, we'd have to kind of override the search box and inject it in. But that could be kind of a fun thing to do too, right? Is trying to figure out how to maybe tie these two pieces together, right? So that essentially, after I do a search here, I can get my results, but then I can also kind of get a map view of those results as well. The reason I was showing this is there's kind of this really cool mechanism for loading in this Google Map baked into the widget itself, right? So if I go in and I look at that Google Map Loader here, this will actually generate a Google object for me. And then I can drop that right in here and essentially do the geosearch against that Google object. But I couldn't figure out a way to surface that so that then I could use that for my autocomplete form. I was kind of hoping that maybe I could build on top of the Google that's in here, but it's pretty baked into the components themselves. So that's when I kind of abandoned and went back to this index.html. But it will take a Google component that you sort of predefine as long as it's got the right API key with the appropriate permissions. So there's also an opportunity. I might be able to find a way to kind of initialize that Google object myself and kind of pass it to both the autocomplete and this map. But that's kind of where I am right now with this. You can see even if I, on this page itself, if you go in and look at the console here, yeah, it's complaining because I've got both my autocomplete Google object and then another Google object baked within this web component. So that's kind of a bummer. But I do want to try and figure that one out too. So yeah, so first thing I kind of want to play with here is, let's get back out of this one for now. Go back over to my agency finder. Syntax error, what I got wrong here. Google is not defined. All right. Let's see if I can get this to come up here. Oh, that's interesting. See if there's some issues with my Google search object. Let's see. Came through eventually. I wonder if there's like a wait I need to do while the Google API initializes. Anyway, so we're back to this form. Okay, so we've got our results coming through. And one thing I wanted to do was be able to have that additional field for checking whether or not it's a preferred agency. So let's see. So first thing I want to do is go to my Finder form. And I think I want to bake it right into this address form for now. Okay. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and just add the object in here. Let's see. So again, not much of a front end, guys. So first thing we need is a checkbox. So is that just checkbox? Let's see here. Input checkbox. Let's see here. Yeah, input checkbox. Okay. Ooh, autopilot's getting a little crazy here. Let's see. Sure if I want that right away. Let's go ahead and pull that out. And all right, what do you know? Oh, I see. These came from the those. All right, so what have I done horribly wrong here already? That's why I shouldn't mess with the front end. Okay, pull this out. So I just got this Copilot, and I'm not used to all of this. So what does that do for me? Okay, so now we're back to working here, sort of. Let's try this again by using all of this junk. That's better. Okay, and then we're going to need some sort of label for it. Not pretty, but got a checkbox now. That's good. Okay. So better if we put it on the same line. It doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Put that down there then. Okay. So now that I've got my checkbox, I should probably give it a name. Oh, we already gave it a name. Down there. Okay. I don't think I need to do anything with this with real time in real time. Uh-oh, did I lose my? Keep losing my Google object. Something's weird with scoping there. So now we want to make sure that we take this into account when we actually do our search. So let's see, where's my on submit? Handle submit. Let me just make sure. See what the actually, does that get passed up in the state? I don't think it gets passed in the state automatically, does it? Let's see, so I got to pull the. Pull the value of that checkbox. And let's see. We can start with an on change. That might be a good idea. So maybe what we can do is we can keep the preferred state. Keep the preferred as a state variable. And then box. Okay. So then we can go to handle checkbox event. And let me see what we're getting back here first. That does. True. Okay. And then what is that in our state? Preferred is blank. Okay, so we're getting the value, and then we want to just set it. If you can do that in alerts, only alerts, can you? preferred? Yep. Okay. So theoretically, this should be setting event target name to event target value. Now, why is that not setting? Let's see. Let's see here. Try again. Okay. So theoretically, let's see. Getting an error here. What's it say? Cannot read properties undefined. Reading set state. Okay. So it doesn't like preferred. Even though I set that in the initial state here. Set this to see. Same problem here. Check this. Same issue. Preferred. Read properties of undefined. Oh, I wonder. Do I have to do a bind? Is that the problem? Let's see. There we go. That's the challenge. I needed to bind it. Is there a better way to do this? Like, this feels like a lot of just crud. And again, this is me just kind of being new to React. But boy, it seems kind of crazy that you have to like bind all these different methods. This feels like really ugly, and I'm sure there's got to be a more elegant way to do this. And I would love to know what it is. If someone can point me to a blog post or something, because this is just getting out of control, right? So maybe that's a good thing to dive into on my own. And I'll do that as homework and come back next time with a little bit more info on it. But the good news is now we have our preferred value. And that means when we do our submit, theoretically, we can use that value. Where's my handle submit? There we go. So we're going to want to go ahead and add another, let's see, parameter in here. There's someone who needs a new muffler. Okay, let's say search. Let's see, let's do the JavaScript API. Why don't you just do a regular old search here? Let's do instant search. Okay, so that's to initialize my client, and then I just want to do a search. Here we go, constant search, instant search. Let's see. Huh. How do you just search? Let's see. Just facet filter. I'll do this facet filter. Values, so just key value pairs. So how do you handle truthiness? Is it just let's see, how do we set up our index? Preferred true. All right, cool. So I think it's just a string. Let's try it as a string, see what happens. If I don't pick it up. Let's try it. Let's see what it does. Okay, so here's my 8 Cedar Street place address. Search. Sorry, I know that looks awful. Again, not a front end guy. Let's take this over to console so that we don't have all that. Okay, so now I've got, and are any of these preferred? What is going on, Massachusetts? No preferred, really? What about, where's another place that we can search? Let's try, let's go back to New York. I know there's no agencies in New York, but let's see what that is. Wow, again, not seeing any preferred. Oh, I know why. So, yes, because this is working, right? Yeah, so we're explicitly saying we don't want preferred agencies, and that is not what we want. So the good news is that our checkbox is working. Our bad news is that it is not what we want to have happen. What we want so I knocked my laptop off its stand. What we want is we want to do we want our search to be different based on whether or not. Oh, does that mean I have to rebuild this whole thing? I don't think I can put a conditional in the middle of the search. It's a bad thing if I don't chain these searches. This is where I get like really concerned about JavaScript and sort of like the asynchronous nature of it. Like if I take off this chaining, does that mean that we don't have any control over what order these happen in? It's true, right? Right. So the paranoid way to do this would be something like if back over. Whoa. Yeah, that is not what I want. This state third is true. Seems awful. Let's just see if I can get this working. Else. I know. This is just terrible, but it works. Okay. That doesn't seem right. What's going on there? I like it. Reasonable. All right. This beast, this hideous beast. Okay, let's try it. Eat Cedar Street, Place, Somerville. Met. Let me get that out of there right now. Okay. Try again. Yeah, maybe. I don't know why that didn't work. Okay, so I've got a mix of preferred and not preferred. And then I click that and submit. And now I get all preferred. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Where's that alert? Turn that off. I don't know. Should the checkbox submit the form? No. No, it shouldn't. I don't think. I don't know. That feels weird. But let's try another location. Let's see. What's a good address in Florida? Let me see. Is there a Pizza Hut in Florida? There's one on Boynton Beach. Let's see. What's the address here? Let's see if we've got any agencies in Florida. That didn't work. Oh, it's something in the address. It's not 100% right. Let's see what else we got. Here's one in Boca Raton. Let's see. Boca Raton. Let's try this one, see if this works any better. Why Pizza Hut? I don't know. Yeah, it's not liking these Florida addresses. So what's going on here is I'm lazy, right? And so what I'm doing here basically is I'm making assumptions about the shape of the data coming back from the autocomplete. So you can see here where I submit the form, or on the on-chain, maybe it's on the handle place select here. So I'm literally going through, we get this address components back from Google, and I am assuming that all of these components have the same shape. You can see it just comes back as an array. So I'm literally just going in and saying, well, let's hope that number 3 is the city and number 5 is the state. And it turns out that it's often true, but not always true. And so that's what's happening here is it looks like short name. So probably the state or the zip code, either reading the wrong field or there's not a short version of it, right? So like the array that I'm getting back isn't 100% matching up. And I'm sure there's sort of a fancy way to deal with that. But for now, my fancy way of dealing with it is just to move on to the next address and see what happens. So let's try this one, see if this is any better. Hey, look, that one worked. Okay. So let's see, let's look for preferred agencies. And here we've got one in Tampa. And we've got this Merritt Island one in Florida. Now, interestingly, I'm noticing I'm not getting my national ones because it's saying US instead of a state. So that's interesting. So again, like the address is not quite 100%. So we got to tweak that. And now we get the Florida, now we get the national ones as well. We should at least get the national agency if it says US, I would think, though. But that's just me not processing the autocomplete data coming back from Google properly. But generally, this seems to be doing what we want it to. We can have, here we get all sorts of like great but not preferred agencies here. We've got the scanty periwinkle toad, oh, one of my favorites there in Melbourne Beach. And we've got this homey denim aloof. But yeah, you can see the shaggy thistle setter. They're a preferred agency, but they're way down here unless we go ahead and turn that right on. And then they move right to the top there. So cool. Again, this would be a heck of a lot easier if we could just use the filter widgets that come with instant search. And boy, I'd sure love to figure out a way to kind of get back over to that. But I think we've got kind of a nice little beastie here. I didn't get a chance to move this guy up. I think I want to move that up on my own because it's going to be a lot more playing with React. As you can see, I'm not a front-end person, and so I struggle with a lot of that. So I might do that on my own time just to get kind of the look and feel a little bit better. And then I'm going to clean up the whole thing with the Google object. I'd show you the problem, but of course, then I'd be showing you my API key. So rather than do that, I'll try and clean that up on my own, and I'll get this, this repo up and shareable. I will put it in my, get back to me. I'll put it in my Twitter feed so you can see it there. And yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. And next week I'll be back and we're going to go ahead and start doing a e-commerce UI using Shopify and the Algolia e-commerce template. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks for hanging out, and I will talk to you soon.